Gotham Knights time again. So we start off with the recap. They remind us again that Batman got the heave-ho from the top of Wayne Tower in episode 1, a thing that I'm still annoyed that they did off camera, because what better way to generate heat on the Court of Owls, the series' main villains as the bad guys, than to have them hurt what is probably the most iconic superhero of them all. This could have been like Bane breaking Batman's spine. Can you imagine if they would have done that off of camera? A group of young people get framed for doing it, including Bruce Wayne's adopted son.
The court killed my dad, and now they're trying to kill me.
Now when they replayed that in the intro, I got serious vibes of this.
They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me! Oh my god!
And I do not mean to insult the guy playing Turner, he's not a bad actor. But when the dialogue and writing in your show sounds like it genuinely could have come from the film Troll 2, I know I'm going to be in for a bumpy ride. Also, they do a reminder on the Owls' very special watches that they wear, the Owls' mystery map that they got a few episodes ago, and that the Owls like to have big parties, and that Cressida, Batman's housekeeper, betrayed him to the Owls. So we start off, and two guys are looking into a trunk, making a deal, and they get pulled away suddenly from behind by maybe Batman's grappling hook thing. I don't even know. We have a fight sequence and it all happens off camera again. We're seconds into the episode and I'm already lost. I don't even know what's supposed to have happened to these two men. They're two full-grown men being pulled into the air and then dropping out of shot in some sort of parabolic curve, and I'm struggling to think of a way that would even be possible. What's happened to these two men is also arguably not non-lethal. The speed that they get pulled backwards, they're probably being subjected to forces similar to those experienced in a car crash. So once again, multiple people with firearms are easily beaten in this show, and this is happening so often now, I'm starting to think that this is about pushing the gun control agenda in America. There seems to be this aversion to having weapons ever be seen as being useful on screen, and they clearly are useful in the real world. If they weren't, militaries would not be using them and would instead have traded them in for batarangs. So I'm getting this sinking feeling we're getting into the propaganda early. And is this worse than the terrible fight intro to last episode? I'm struggling to decide. Is a very crappy intro fight better or worse than one I didn't even see because it was all off camera? The Gotham Knights then tie up the men off screen and leave them for the cops. The show at no point demonstrated the supposed bad guys doing anything wrong or illegal. It appeared to possibly be an illegal gun sale. But show, it does tend to help if you want to portray a criminal to actually show them committing a crime. The Gotham Knights then hear the police coming and they were relying on Deadname to get them a vehicle. I don't know why or how they even got there, but Deadname is late in arriving, but arrives just in time in a stolen taco truck.
You stole a food truck?
It was the only thing I could find.
So once again, the show has the heroes arguably being more criminal than the criminals they were bringing to justice. It's not like this truck belongs to a giant corporation. This probably belongs to a not very well off Mexican family. As far as the show demonstrates, this could be their sole source of income. And once again, we're back with the same themes in this terrible show. The writers of the show do not seem to know the difference between a hero and a villain. Their moral compass is entirely broken. You wouldn't get Batman doing this. You would not get Batman stealing a poor family's food truck and then just keeping it. And the Gotham Knights do just keep it. They don't take it back. They use it again later in this episode. We're 2 minutes into the episode at this point and I'm already quite angry. That may be a record. The writers just don't seem to know the difference between right and wrong. And we then find out that Deadname was late because his watch had stopped. The very expensive watch that the Gotham Knights stole from the Court of Owls. The Gotham Knights have 4 of the Owl Watches that they've stolen at this point, and this is where the show drops the surprise that the Owls use the Watchers to coordinate meetings between themselves and communicate. Something so predictable, I called it 2 episodes ago. The Watchers turn to a sequence of times that correspond to coordinates and a time for a meeting. And man, is this silly. How would any of this work? Either the meetings are pre-programmed into the Watchers, or the Watchers are capable of receiving a signal, and at no point does it occur to the heroes of the show that the Watchers could possibly be used to track them. Why would the Owls not have tracking devices in their Watches in case one of their members goes missing? This just makes the heroes look like idiots. Meanwhile, Cressida has turned on the Owls for reasons, and Harvey Dent puts her in a safe house, saying, "You'll be safe here." But she isn't, and she gets taken within hours. This episode is like a contest of which character can be the most inept. Harvey then plays a tape left at the safe house after her abduction and loses more time again. The Gotham Knights decide to crash the Owls' party now that they have time and the coordinates, so Turner and Duella don disguises and dress up as owls. Turner and Duella have a romantic moment as she's wearing an expensive dress that she probably stole, and Turner is worried she's not going to fit in at the party and says, "I'm the one used to being around a bunch of privileged asshats," and she replies, "Those with privilege are no more than glorified con artists whose superpower is tricking people into believing they're better and more deserving than the rest of us. But who defines who has privilege? Who's the judge of that?" And this feels like another piece of editorialising from the writers again, with the slight problem that depending on the definition of privilege that you're using, both of these characters arguably are privileged. Turner is the adopted son of a billionaire, and both of them are the proud recipients of white privilege. But people aren't going to give you their family's resources just because you think you deserve them. Where the writers are going with this is, from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. This may seem harmless, but it isn't. It's genuinely kind of sinister. This show contains quite a lot of propaganda. Quite a lot of the CW shows do. And this show is pitched at an age rating of 13+, so you let your 13-year-olds watch this, and the writers will be slipping bits of Marxist theory in there when you're not looking, and a lot of other political messaging to boot. And all in all, it has this kind of energy to it.
We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it.
Turner and Duella then go into the party, and the Court of Owls watch acts as a key to the door, and for some unknown reason, when they go into the main hall, the Owls just have a rack of swords in the middle of the room for the Gotham Knights to use later, and I can think of no in-universe reason for those swords to be there. The Owls then unveil their grand plot. They wanted the map hidden in the Wayne family painting because the map it contained showed the location of a substance called Electrum that will make them supposedly all immortal. I'm not sure why they waited for a century to go and find it, and when they got the map, instead of just going to get the Electrum, they instead had a party so the map could get stolen. And the name Electrum is already in use anyway. In the real world, it's an alloy of gold, silver and copper. Turner and Duella then go to the basement and steal the map after another horrible fight scene when they're caught by guards, and they should be in trouble because the 2 guards have firearms, but luckily Duella throws something at the guards and then the 2 of them teleport into melee range, and they're going to escape with the map until, as they're leaving, the Owls bring Cressida in that they captured earlier, and they're going to execute her for betraying them. Duella runs with the map, and Turner cuts off the Talon's head with one of the swords that was there for no reason in the first place. The lead owl is then unmasked as Lincoln March, something that I predicted back in my review of episode 3 of the show, and then kind of discounted because it seemed way too obvious. Joella has already escaped, but then Cressida and Turner also get away, but instead of running, they instead stop for a chat in some woods. And as Turner is demanding to know of Cressida who is leading the owls, Cressida gets stabbed from behind from off camera, which doesn't work in any way whatsoever, because as she drops, it reveals that there are 3 people behind her that would have been directly in Turner's eye line. In the next shot it gets even worse. There are a whole bunch of them standing around with lanterns that somehow Turner didn't see approaching, despite the fact they were coming right towards him. So Turner then gets captured. The rest of the Gotham Knights have to run, and Harvey then wakes up at the end wearing an owl mask and covered in blood. There was a pointless side plot with Stephanie, the 29-year-old schoolgirl, and her mother's addiction problems. Maybe it will lead somewhere interesting, but I very much doubt it. And that episode was bloody atrocious again. The writing on the show is inexcusably bad, and for this episode, the direction was extremely faulty as well.
Those look good. A big salty clam would sure go great with this heat.